All right. Well, welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a little minute. It's been crazy, back on the bag. Prelude to an episode called Back on the Bag. But hey, I am back on the bag. It's been 90 days now. So trying to keep the podcast afloat is rough. I have Staff Sergeant Dutton back with us again. And I'll be real, there's a lot of reasons why. One of the many reasons why is because I had a whole bunch of people reach out to me and they were like, yo, thank you so much for that most recent episode with Staff Sergeant Dutton. I took a lot out of it. The two of you guys, your charisma and everything together was really good, and it helped me with my week. So I was like, oh shit, like let's go. So I wanted to have him back, so much so that we decided that, you know what, we're going to start a series together. This one will just kind of be a prelude to it, but we're going to start a series called On the Bag. And just talking about it from the standpoint of a recruiter, the standpoint of an ARI, 8412, and just talking about all things mental health, training, and just really giving to the recruiter or anybody in the recruiting command just kind of a place to listen to, when you're on those drives, just a place to listen to different things. And, if you guys have any questions or anything that you want us to talk about, please let us know. Anything that you feel would be help. But what do you got, Staff Sergeant Dutton?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Benny. It's good to be back, right? Like, definitely some positive feedback from that last episode that we did together. And honestly, I think it's surprising because, based off the topics, it's crazy how many people kind of deal with the same things out here. It's very universal, and so I'm happy to be here, man. I'll tell you what, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man. So something that I wanted to talk about with you is just really like, we were just talking about before we hopped on, man. It's just like it's so easy, the mental health aspect of the duty, because it's so easy to get caught up in the everyday grind. It's so easy to, you know, walk into the office, immediately put on that uniform, immediately start making phone calls, immediately you're right back in the swing of things, and you're immediately thinking about, okay, hey, who do I got going on deck? Or who don't I have going on deck? When am I going to find that next one? And the crazy thing about it is that, like, we all just witnessed it. The 31st hit, and then the next day was a Tuesday. So it literally, like, there wasn't a weekend gap. There was nothing. It was just like boom, the next day is the first. And that's the hard part about the duty, is
Man,
that there's never a day where you're not constantly thinking about who's going on deck, who's coming in for paperwork, who's going this. And it's like, I'll be honest, like, I missed it for the 2.5 years that I was off the bag. I missed that. I missed that ever changing,
that hustle.
constant, like that always like, hey, what do you got for tomorrow? What do you got coming in? Who's coming in? And I miss that, because in the civilian world, it's not like that. In the civilian world, 5 o'clock comes around, my freaking work phone is off. I'm not gonna see you or talk to you till tomorrow at 9. Like, there ain't no group chats, there ain't no
Yeah.
nothing. Like, I'll see you on Monday, but here, like, we're so consumed in it, that I think it's important to talk about, okay, stepping away from the phone, if you're with your family, being present and stuff like that. So, like, what advice do you have, this far being on the bag as long as you've had? Like, what advice do you have about that?
I'll tell you what, like, all great points. The truth is, what they say, man, mission first, right? Like, unfortunately, when you work as a civilian in a civilian job, and like you don't like something, you just quit. In our job, it's just perform. You got really
Yeah.
no choice. You perform or you get crushed, and that's a fact. And I mean, you call a spade. And we're cutthroat. Marines are cutthroat. I think that we've learned that very quickly, just looking at the comments, right? And so Marines are cutthroat. And what I mean by that is, ultimately, if you're not making it happen, if you're not writing your contracts, if you're not writing your bones, people start looking at you weird. Your value goes down. Like, you're
Yeah.
worthless in many cases, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that is a factor in itself that is very detrimental to the psyche. And I know, I
Bro,
mean, that
I gotta tell you, I'm living that right now.
right.
I'm living that right
People
now.
people got
Like,
short term memories out here, Benny. All right, but
bro, all I'm hearing right now from people, I'm not gonna say names, is bro, you got a podcast about recruiting duty. How did you run a nut? Like, yo, you got, and I'm like, hey, I agree. I'm like, hey, I
hey,
agree.
but
You
listen,
know?
bro. here's the benefit, man. People got short-term memory out here, but that's a good thing because that means that you could have been a hero yesterday and a zero today, but it also means you could be a
A
zero
hero.
today
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
hero tomorrow.
Bro,
And
it's so
so
true. It's so
ne-
true.
never judge your week by your day and never judge your month by your week. And so ultimately, the first thing that we got to do is we got to learn how to become effective in this gig. And once you learn how to become effective, then you can take control of your life.
Yeah.
Becoming more efficient, then you take control of your life. And there's just some things that just need to be done. And there's always going to be a level of stress. You're always going to have a discharge pending. You're always going to have that
Yeah.
kid who comes in talking about he wants to be a Primerica now instead of being a Marine. Like,
Yo, yo.
and so that those some of those things
I
will be
hate it
there.
because those are real.
Yeah, some of those things will be there, man. Like no matter what you do, but hopefully, what we can do through this podcast, through the Instagram, through
Yeah. Yeah.
training, through dealing with Marines on a daily basis, is we can get people to understand there's processes in place that if you can go ahead and start executing on them the right way. See, I like to look at things like constants and variables, right?
Okay.
There's some things in this job that are constants, and these constants, these are like, like you need to get your 2 packs, 2 appointments, 3 packs, 3 appointments, whatever it is. You need to get your 2 contracts a month. You need to get your 2, 3 interviews a week. Like these constants that we deal with, you can guarantee there's going to be training R&Rs. You can guarantee that this kid's going to come in. He's going to pull benefit tags. Like being effective in engaged statements, being effective on the phone, talking to parents. You're going to have to do that. So like these constants, we master those. And what that allows us to do is now when those variables come, when that one pulley wants to quit because of Primerica, or that one, mom who hangs up on you because of whatever, that one kid who gets in trouble, that one discharge you're forced to take, that one kid that ghosts you, right? Like now when those variables happen,
Mhm.
or that disinterest you haven't heard before, that objection you haven't heard before,
Yeah.
when that happens, you can handle those variables and it's not so overwhelming. But when we're not mastering those constants,
Yeah.
then it feels like we're overwhelmed.
Amen. Yeah, and the thing is too is that like one of the things that you said as a constant is training. That is, and let's be real here. There are places where training may not be a constant, and if it's not, and if the training piece is a variable, well, then that's detrimental to your mental health. That's detrimental to your everyday life. And reality of it is that like if like you just said, if I don't know if I'm not being trained for that variable when that variable comes up and I don't know how to engage that disinterest or I don't know how to explore and enable this piece, well, then that variable is going to beat me.
Well, I'll
So
tell you
that's
what,
why,
Benny, I've come to learn that there are a lot of station commanders, a lot of people, who are responsible for training that just don't. I've been very fortunate in being in this command that like we take training very seriously. Master Guns Torres, he's up at 6th District now, but that's a great mentor of mine. And that dude didn't
Mhm.
mess around when it came to training. That dude was like, we're sharpening the axe. I don't care if we miss mission, right? Like he was about it. And
Yeah,
so like but he knew that by doing that we were never going to miss. And so, but I feel horrible to find that there are a lot of places that don't get that training. And I will let you know, early on in my career as a recruiter, when my station commanders were always nice guys. They're good people, but like there wasn't always like the level of training that I needed. And if we did
yeah,
get training, it wasn't really like it was like here's the annual campaign plan, and
yep,
we're going to train
yep,
on that thing instead
yeah,
of training on the thing that we're like losing on.
yeah,
And so what I
and
had to
it's
do, Benny,
yeah,
I'm sorry not to interrupt
no,
you,
no,
but
no,
what I
no, yeah,
had to do was I had to take it into my own hands, man. And so like
yeah,
any recruiters that are out here right now,
yeah,
look, we can complain, we can gripe, we can moan, we can complain to the RI, we can say, hey, mommy, daddy, this guy's not training me. But you know what? At some point, we got to say, you know what? I got to figure this thing out. And I'm going to tell
yeah,
you the best way to do that is to read a sales book about anything that is not Marine Corps sales, right? Like learn how to sell something, watch sales videos, buy a course, invest money and time outside
mm,
of the recruiting sphere and make yourself more efficient and effective. And then you can become that change. And you can be that guy, that station commander who never again lets your recruiters go without training. That
yeah,
is really the ultimate solution, man. And I know
yeah,
that sounds
no.
freaking terrible,
No,
but it's the
it's
truth.
it doesn't, because it's the truth, and it's just like just from my perspective, right? One of the reasons why I started the podcast was because I got off the duty and I looked back at myself and I was like, okay, you just spent 4 years on recruiting duty. What could you do to help that next recruiter out? And I looked at myself and I looked at my first 9 months and I looked at my first year and I looked at how many days upon days I went without in mid out briefs, how many days upon days that I went without, someone taking me to do my first NROTC talk or someone taking me to do my first career talk. Right. And I completely agree with you. Right. At the end of the day, as a recruiter, as a Marine, the onus is on us, right? Extreme accountability at the end of the day, right? At the same time, though, there's people whose job it is to do this thing called training.
Yeah.
And anywhere else in the Marine Corps, training is paramount. Anywhere else in the Marine Corps. And when it comes to mental health, it's like there's only so many times that like you can, because a lot of times there's people who just don't know how to get over this one hump. They don't. And they can read a book and they can watch a movie and they can literally do all these things. But all it takes is for somebody to go out area canvassing with them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, man, you know what? I just watched you do this. And that maybe that's what's going on here. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about it, man, is that when you're in a knife fight, let's to be honest here, the average recruiter in today's day and age, as soon as they leave BRC, they're immediately on the bag. Yeah, they're immediately with a mission letter, right? So now immediately they're in this knife fight and some days there's no one to the left or right of them and they just got to figure it out. Yeah. And now if no one's coming, if I'm out there ACing all day long and no one's coming out for me and no one's my A gunner or my station commander or an 8412 or somebody from the command group isn't out there with me, well, then who's going to shadow me and tell me what I'm not doing right?
So let's come up with a solution, man, because what I want to do, so any of the station commanders that are watching this, maybe they're brand new station commanders, maybe they've been a station commander and they learned bad habits, maybe but one of the things that I did early on when I first took over the office, I created a plan. I was like, okay, so like if I was a brand new recruiter, like what are the things that I would need? What are the things that I would need to know in order to be effective? And then as a station commander, I thought from that perspective, what are the things that if this brand new Marine started doing would be most beneficial? So number one, okay, and this is for all my guys out there who are responsible for training. And maybe you don't know, right? Maybe you just don't know what to train on, and so maybe you think you're training, but it's just not as effective as you might think. So number one, start doing this. New guy comes in, or maybe you start doing what guy's been there 3, 6, 8 months, whatever, but you start over. First things first, if this brand new recruiter was capable of battling disinterest with a parent and then getting on the contact with the kid and battling disinterest with him and setting an appointment, would my other recruiters be able to conduct the interviews and process the kids? Yes. Okay, cool. So what I really need to do is I just need to train this guy on being able to get through parents, get through the kid, and set the appointment. Okay, bam, that's number one. All right. And as soon as you get the guy doing that, that's all he does all day long. He makes 300 phone calls a freaking day. He's not going out ACing. He's not conducting the interviews. He's not building packages. Yeah. He's not doing nothing. He's sitting there and he's setting appointments because that's what you just taught him how to do, and that's it. He does that for 2 or 3 days straight. All right, boom. Now, number two, he's got kids coming in now. Maybe he's able to set 2 or 3 appointments and 1 or 2 of them show up every day. The second thing you want to teach him how to do is a very thorough interview process. Okay, so the kid walks in the office. This is how you address him. You shake his hand, you sit him down, introduce him to everybody, build rapport. Now you build rapport, you move into some type of visual aid, whether it's a video, whether it's YouTube videos that you put together for him, whatever. You put him on that visual aid so he can see what being a Marine's all about. And then you clarify with him with that interview process. And now he's able to go through that. And he might not be able to lock those commitments in, but you let him know every single kid that comes in here, every young man or woman that comes in here, when you're done talking to them, you will bring them to see me. And at that point, as a station commander or whatever, you can close the loop and help them out. That's number two.
Yeah.
Once that's locked in, the third thing you teach him, now he's got 2 interviews a week coming in, but he's got no commitments really. The kids aren't really interested. So now the third thing you want to do is teach him how to close. You teach him how to close hard. You teach him how to close. You teach him how to meet with parents today. You teach him how to go get PC today. You teach him that part of it. Boom. Now that's locked in. And now you have the first entire portion of this. He doesn't understand pool management. He don't know how to process kids. But what he does know how to do is set appointments, have good interviews, close on the kids, and put that level of work in.
Amen.
Those three things right there are locked in. And now what you'll have to do as a trainer is you're going to have to recycle and go back to the first topic, the second topic, the third topic
Yeah.
a little bit every couple weeks to start refining it, make it sharper. And like, okay, like you're starting to see that he's rushing interviews. You explain to him and train to him, you know. And so those three things. And the best way to do it is utilizing what we all know as pesos, right?
Yeah,
You use pesos for everything. You prepare them. Okay, set up your computer here, big dog. Open up this list. This is seniors. It's 5 o'clock. Make it 100. Okay, now look, I'm gonna explain to you how this is done. You click this. You do this. You say this. You show them.
Yeah.
You do it yourself, man. If you're a trainer,
and that's the biggest thing, man. Not to cut you off, but
no, please.
You know, if you're listening right now and you're a recruiter, you have to understand, and I promise you, like if you, and this is where people get messed up. If you're straight out of par and you're a brand new recruiter, do not take what he's saying as micromanagement, because that's a huge part. Is that there's Marines who, when you start doing that and you sitting next to them and they're making the phone calls, they're immediately feeling like, oh, I'm being like, and then especially once you pull out a telephone observation form and you start writing notes down immediately. Like I had a Marine one time, I swear, he was like, I think like 2 weeks into the job, and I pulled out a telephone observation form on him, and immediately, as soon as I started listening to the conversation and I started writing notes, he hung up the phone. And I was like, yo, his name was Sergeant Murphy, great friend of mine. I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, nah. He was like, nah, Staff Sergeant. He was like, no. He said, no, Staff Sergeant. I ain't about that life. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, Staff Sergeant, I've been in the Marine Corps 10 years. Anytime anybody pull out a phone and pull out a piece of paper and a pen and start writing notes down, it's because I'm about to get some negative paperwork and you trying to get me got because I'm not making good phone. I'm like, no, man. And now, mind you, here was my problem. I didn't explain to him I didn't explain to him what I was doing, right? So there was my problem. But what I am saying to the person who is listening is that, like, what you're saying is what should happen with every single Marine that comes out of par, is that you should literally sit down with them kneecap to kneecap and observe their phone calls. You should observe, okay, hey, I like what you did here. Hey, hey, what are we taught to do? MC4. Hey, how do you feel you did there? What do you think you could do better?
You know what I do, man? You know what I do, man? I make people literally repeat what I say verbatim, just me and them. We sit there and I give them the engage statements. I give them the intros. Like verbatim, I want you to repeat what I am saying in these words. And they usually what'll happen is they start taking notes and like writing down what I'm trying to say. And so, and the reason why I do that is because, I'll say, hey, hey, this is Staff Sergeant Bennett. And this is Staff Sergeant Bennett. I'm with the United States Marines. I'm with the United States Marines. Like boom, boom, back and forth. And we build it out. And then we repeat it over and over again. And then that way, when they get on the phone, it's a little bit more natural. What you'll see is a lot of brand new recruiters. You know what they like to do? They like to take their phone calls outside. They like to take their phone calls outside, hide around the corner because school. That's where I feel most comfortable. Like, I'm sorry, brother, but that's not how this works, man.
Yeah, I can't help you. I can't help you. Listen, I'm cool with you getting up and walking around the room.
Yeah, man.
Perfectly fine. I get it. Emotion. I get it. But you leaving the room, no. But here's another thing too. And listen, this is just a pet peeve of mine. I'm nobody. I'm just a recade. Listen, this is just a pet peeve of mine. Is when people, and I don't know how you feel about it, but when people use this engage statement and when they're on the phone and they're introducing themselves and they're, hi, I'm Sergeant Bennett and I work with the local high school program. And no, stop right there. Here's the reason why you stop right there. Number one, that's a lie. That's not who you are. You're not a career counselor. You're not any of these things. You are a Marine Corps recruiter. And here's the reason why. Because there's going to be a time, as I watched it happen with Staff Sergeant Romaine, who's now out of the Marine Corps. Staff Sergeant Romaine told Old Bridge High School, The father answered the phone and he said, "Oh, I'm the military liaison for Old Bridge High School." The father said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Really? I didn't know we had one of those." He said, "Okay, hold." He said, "Sir, I'm going to call you right back." Click.
Yep.
5 minutes later, he called back and he said, "Hey, so weird thing. I just called out to the high school. They said they don't have a military liaison and that you're not who you say you are. Please do never call my house again. Have a good day." Click.
Happened to me. Happened to one of my
Bro,
guys too, man.
bro, it is not the right way to conduct business.
Yep.
It's not okay because now when you do say let's you set the appointment. And now mom and dad come in the office and they walk into the Marine Corps recruiting office. And now they're like, wait a minute. I thought you were the military liaison for the high school. How come you're not at the school?
Yep. And
Oh,
so
and don't you have an office at the school? Bro, stop.
that
Stop.
brings us to a really important point here, right? Which is number one is honesty and clarity. And so like you got to be very straightforward and very deliberate with the people you're speaking to. And the reason why you have to be that way is because just like you said, when the goal of this thing is not to set appointments. The goal is to find qualified individuals, men and women, to join the United States Marine Corps and serve the country. That is the point. And so, if you're just trying to get people to come into office and you think that because you can deceive them by deceiving them, and then you're going to be so effective in your sales process, or they're going to be so swooned by your desk that they're
Yeah.
going to be like, "Oh, this is what I want to do." Well, you're wrong, right? And so we have to be extremely clear. And so it brings us to this very critical point here I'd like to make to the audience, which is you don't want to waste time. I'm telling you something here. You don't want to waste time. You
Yeah.
don't want to waste time with people who are genuinely disinterested. If they are not interested, you just request a follow up. You get back with them. You tell them who you are, who you're with, what you want to do, why you want to help, and make it valuable. And if they genuinely do not want to talk to you, then you say, "Listen, I'd love to follow up with you. Could I maybe get a referral from you? Maybe somebody could benefit from this, and I'd love to just get back with you, man. Give you a letter of recommendation, something like that in the future." Oh yeah, okay, sure. And then you move on, you follow up with them later. But the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want to waste our time. It is the most valuable thing that we have. And so you, for example, set an appointment with a guy. You tell him, "Hey, this is Max. I'm the career counselor for Western High School. I work closely with them, and I'm here to talk to you about some information about scholarships and career opportunities, different jobs." Kid comes into an appointment. It's the Marine Corps office. You spend 2.5 hours doing an interview with him. He tells you, "No, I don't want to do it. It's not really for me." You just took all this time, the 45 minutes on the phone, the 30, 40 minutes picking this kid up, the 2 hours and a half, and plus the station commander's time for the request to join. Like, you took all this time and wasted it on somebody who is not interested. And even if you did force them into saying yes today, they're more than likely going to say no tomorrow. And so what you could have done is taken that 4 hours of time and have set probably 3 appointments in that time with people who say, "You know what, I kind of thought about the military. It's not really something I was taking seriously, but I'll come in to learn about
Yeah.
that."
Yeah.
And then when they do say yes, they will actually go through the process.
Yeah.
Do not waste your time.
Yeah.
Don't
Or
waste time.
or even like you just said, like this dude that you just said, "Oh, hey, I'm the military career counselor." He gets to the office and now he's like, this is a Marine Corps office, dog.
Right.
You're a sergeant. You're in the Marines. Like, that's not what you now this dude's starting to realize, like, bro, you deceived me.
Yep.
And what do you mean by that? And then, like, on top of that, like, you don't think that these parents, like, bro, when you say this whole elaborate thing, you think the parent heard anything? No. And it's like, and I understand why people do it, right? Because some people are like, oh, as soon as I call, they hang up. Like, now, mind you, there's the only one I will use, and it's hi. And first of all, I'm a staff sergeant, but I call myself sergeant. Bro, I've
Makes it
realized,
easy.
bro, everybody, oh, Gunny, sergeant, but no. So I'm just like, hey, it's Sergeant Bennett with the Marines. But because of the climate that I'm in, I will say, hey, this is Sergeant Bennett with the Marine Corps Reserve Program. Now, one, I'm a reservist. I've been a reservist for 15 years, and I'm a subject matter expert about the reserve program. So I will say that, especially when I am calling grads, because one, I'm in the KG market, and two, I'm a reservist. So I'll say, hey, this is Sergeant Bennett with the Marine Corps Reserve Program. I'm calling to talk to your son or daughter about how they can, work while still in the Marine Corps Reserve Program and get some educational opportunities and as well as some experience. So I'm coupling the two together, because realistically, a lot of times as soon as people hear Marine Corps, they're off. So I'm like, okay, the Reserve Program, because that
Yeah,
sometimes it'll go, oh, really? I didn't know.
I
Or
see.
also, the
I
reason
see.
why I do that as well is because a lot of people don't know the Marine Corps has a reserve program. So as soon as I say that, a lot of moms are like, "Oh, really? The reserves? I didn't know you had a reserve program."
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of doing it. I suppose it's not something I would do, right? And so for me, um, I'm always very direct. I'm
Yeah.
always very direct, and so like, and I've come to learn, because I would be lying to you if I told you that as a young recruiter I didn't try the, hey, I'm a career representative or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
tried these things in the past, like I have, and they don't work that effectively for the reasons we discussed. And
yeah.
I just like to be very clear. Like, and
Yeah.
and so I have this word I made up. It's called hang upable, right?
Mm.
And so you want to try to avoid being hang upable. And so how do you avoid being hang upable? Well, it's about your tonality, right? And so you
Definitely.
got to keep
100%.
in mind that when you're calling people, these people are busy. Like, I'm always doing something. Like, I don't even like when I don't even like when my mom calls me. I got stuff going on. You know what I mean? Let alone a stranger trying to sell me a something. So what do you have to do? You have to, number one, you have to have your voice and your tone set in such a way that it makes this conversation could be very important. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I like to talk to my Marines. I tell them friendly but authoritative. That is how I explain it to them. The same way I'm speaking to you right now
Yeah.
is exactly the way that I tell my Marines to
Exactly.
speak to the parents. Right. Good afternoon, ma'am. Is this John's mom? Yes, this is John's mom. Hey, how you doing? This is Staff Sergeant Dutton. I'm with the United States Marines. How are you today? Like,
Yeah.
just like that. Very
Yeah.
straightforward, very clean cut,
Yep.
very direct, loud, because I want them to
Yes.
hear every
Bro,
freaking word.
people, yeah, bro, people say all the time to me, they're like, "Yo, why are you so loud when you make phone calls?" I'm like, "Because, like you just said, when you're on the phone with somebody, and right now I'm yelling into the mic, but like when you're making when you're making phone calls, if the person, like you just said, man, if somebody answers the phone and immediately like, listen, I'm sorry to say this, but an old 8412 very good friend of mine, he used to call it limp dicking, and he would say, if you're limp dicking around,
Mhm.
then that's how you're going to be treated. He's like,
Yeah,
if you answer the phone and someone says, "Hi, who is this?" and you're like, "Hey, this is Staff Sergeant so and so with the Marines," or you're like, "Oh, this is so," and you're trying to get your words out, they're gonna hang up because they, bro, I'm busy. I'm at work. I'm somewhere. I'm doing something. Most of the time we're calling parents' cell phones, so they're either at work, they're at the grocery store, they're somewhere, and they're the last. They're like, who, like you said, you don't even want to take a phone call from your grandmother or your mother. So now they're like, yo, who's calling me right now? Because the
yeah,
reality of it is, who calls anybody no more? Nobody. So now
right.
they're like, yo, who's this phone call coming from? So now if you don't get your words out in a direct manner, they're gonna hang up.
It comes from
And then
practice.
and then on top of that, it's also okay. What are you calling me for, and how can I help you? And you have to be the most direct as possible. Hey, listen, I'm calling right now to talk to Johnny about these opportunities. Oh, okay, I'm not interested. Okay, well, hey, listen, ma'am, I understand that you are not interested, but what about your son? Like, have you guys ever talked about it? Has he ever brought it up? And if not, man, what is he looking at doing after he graduates? I just want to talk to him about these opportunities. And you have to be able to, and again, comes with practice. But if you're not talking to your station commander or other recruiters in the office, like, hey, what do you do when you come across this? Then you're failing, because
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, is that if you're not doing this job as repetitions and you're not learning quickly, like, because there has to, as soon as a parent says this, then you have to be able to riddle something back off to them, because if you don't, then they're going to hang up. But if
some
you
of the
could
best
keep the
times.
mom on the phone, and because, like, realistically think about it, and this is something that I would always challenge when I was a station commander. This is what I was always challenge my recruits to do. I say, hey, when mom gets on the phone, I want you to see how long you can keep mom on the phone. See how long you can keep her on the phone before she hangs up, because a lot of times it's misunderstanding. And then
Yeah,
once you get mom on your side, mom will be like, you know what? I'll give you Johnny's number.
Yep.
and you get mom on your side. So you have to be able to talk to a parent in a way to where they want to stay on the phone with you.
Value, right? And so some of the best times I ever had as a recruiter was like during like these power hours. It's like me, my boy Williams behind me, my boy Velez in front of me, Burgos, Gunny Ingram in the corner, and we're just nailing these TCs together. Boom. And I used to like I had my headset set up and I'm walking around the office and like we just in this vibe. And I would hear my boy Williams using some licks that I would use, and he's using licks,
Yep, yep.
and I'm using licks he used, and like we're just going back and forth. And that's what you want, and you need to have that energy. And so
Yes.
if you're afraid to get out, afraid to stand up, afraid to use your voice, afraid to get out, like then it's never going to work. And you had said, well, I want to keep mom on the phone. Well, the only way you keep a parent on the phone is through value. And so it's like let's break down, right, not to get too crazy into doctrine, but let's break down the engaged statement. I'm gonna tell you something about engaged statements here, ladies and gents. They are so freaking powerful. They are your tool. If you're a guy and you're out there in the woods and you needed a tool, you need a stick, you need a knife, you need to be able to hunt. That's what your engaged statement is. It's that tool. It's a lifeline for you. And so, you know, you need to perfect it and craft it and build it. And so you think about the way you transition to business, right? So listen, man, the reason why I'm giving you a call, right? You state the agenda and the value. My agenda, what I want to do, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to talk to you about your son. And I want to break down for you over 350 different career opportunities as well as educational benefits. And what this is going to do, the agenda, is going to put your son in a position where he can graduate from school and get the job that he wanted to get right out of high school. And I'm going to take the burden off the family by providing you guys with 100% college educational costs completely covered. Do you think he would benefit from that? That is a closed question. It is a leading question that they're going to say yes to. They might have a rebuttal. They might say yes, but they're going to say yes. And it's because it's valuable. What's the value? The value is my son is going to be able to get a job that he wanted to do out of 350 different choices. That does sound pretty cool. And you're right. His college education is something that's been weighing on my freaking back. And it would be nice to be able to put that money back in my pocket. Maybe I might want to hear what this guy's got to say. Would he benefit from that? Yeah, I mean, he would benefit from it, but he's never really talked to me about it. I'll tell you what, man, most people never really do think about the military. They don't grow up wanting to be Marines, and that's
Yeah.
okay. What I do is I reach out to him, I explain to him how it works, I break it down piece by piece, and I just float the idea by him just to
Yeah.
see if it's something that he wants to do.
Yeah.
Would I be able to get his number, shoot him a text, see if he's interested? And if he is, I'd love to set up a meeting with you and him, and we can break it down and see if it's something that fits.
Well, and that's and the thing too, like you said, man, is that this all comes with practice, right? And because realistically, let's be honest, man, like I can from experience, I could say, like I remember those first phone calls, and as soon as a mom would answer the phone, I'd hang up. Like I remember that, like, oh shit, I don't remember what to say. Like, oh, and then my boss would be like, bro, what are you doing? And I'd be like, yeah, he'd be
Yeah,
like, call back.
yeah, yeah.
And and that's the thing is, like, yesterday I was at zero training. I failed to do my job as a recruiter in the World Zero, and we were at zero training. And one of the things that the Master Sergeant said was, Master Sergeant Velasquez, he was like, bro, how many of y'all? He'll be like, I'll be going around the state. He's the ARI. He'll be like, I'll go around the state. And he's like, I don't know how many times I see y'all motherfuckers on the phone with somebody and you hang up and you don't ask for referrals. He was like, you, everybody, all the time. Don't tell me you don't do it. He's like, because when you don't do it, I kick your chair. And I was like, you're not wrong. Like, there's so many times where like we won't add, oh, hey man, I get you're not interested, but you know what? You know, a family member or anybody that you think that would be able to utilize this opportunity. Do you may? And I said to mom today, I would like her son was autistic. And I was like, oh, hey, man. I was like, you know what, ma'am? I was like, I just want to thank you for everything that you do for him, ma'am. I was like, like, God bless you for everything that you're doing. Because I know how hard it is. I have family members that are autistic, ma'am. And I was like, so please just do me a favor and let your son know that I did call for him. And I hope he has a great day. And then I said to her on the phone, I was like, ma'am, if you do know anybody in the area or in the community, please let them know that the Marine Corps is looking for people. I was like, I'm new to the area. I just started recruiting out here. So if you do know anybody, please take my number. And I was like, man, what was your name? And she said her name was, I think it was like Jennifer. So I was like, all right, cool, man. I was like, well, Jennifer, is it okay if I shoot you a text with my name and number? And this way, if you do run into anybody that you think might be beneficial towards this opportunity, you could take it. She was like, yeah, of course, please do. And she's like, what was your name, sir? And I was like, oh, my name is Doug. And she was like, oh, thank you so much, Doug. I really appreciate that. You have a great day. And thank you so much for asking about my son. And like, and now, mind you, like that little thing, maybe it does nothing. Maybe it does absolutely nothing. But I don't know unless I actually extend it. And that's the
So
biggest thing, is that people are so quick to just do the phone calls to do the phone calls. Oh, I got an objective to make. It's like, bro, stop. Like, if you look at TCs as I have an objective to make, you're never going to be successful at them.
yeah, man, you got to look at the bottom line, and so you, here's the thing: people don't utilize referrals or ask for referrals because they've never done it and it hasn't worked for them yet. And so, like, once it works for you one time, and somebody texts you, it's like, "Hey, I got this number from a friend of mine who you know," or they send you, "Here's my buddy John. He might be interested." And you call John, and John becomes a contract. You'll never not do it, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what happened to me. Like I started getting referrals like that. I start, same thing with my delayed entry program. Like when I started like just draining my kids, I'm like, you will get me referrals, and they started writing contracts. I never stopped. Same with the EPPCs. When I went out and I took 3 hours out of my day, built all these little cardboard boxes, and I put them in all the places and met all these new people in the community, and people started texting me. Once it started working, I never stopped doing it. And so, like, that's really what it comes down to. And so, I want to let everyone who's listening understand something here. 10x, right? Grant Cardone wrote a book. It's called the 10x Rule. And if you have never read it, read it. It's a fantastic book. It's about real estate, it's about sales, but really what it's about a mindset. And I read this book early on in my recruiting career, and it was like, you just do 10 times more than you think you. Actually, I read this book before I became a recruiter. You do 10 times more than you think you got to do in order to be able to get what you want. So an example of this is like, for example, you go to the Mac, you go ahead and say, hey, let me get some business cards. He gives you 500 business cards. You put those things together, boom, boom, boom. 2 days later, 3 days later, 4 days later, you go get another 500 business cards from old boy. He just prints them off for you, right? He don't want to stop. Go talk to the fucking sergeant major, like, give me my business cards, right? You got your cards. You hand all of them out. Every person you meet, every person you see, shake your hand. Hey, brother, how you doing, man? Look, I don't know if you ever thought about military service, but here's a business card. I'd love to talk to you. And you just keep it moving. Maybe you're not there at AC. Maybe you don't have the time. You put them on the windshields. You put them in the bathrooms. You put them all over the freaking place. If you put out 100 business cards and you got, let's say, 2 leads out of that contacted you because you put them in good places or gave them to the right people, well, out of those 2 people, maybe they don't contract, maybe they're not qualified, but maybe they are. Now, if you put out 100 business cards for 2, if you put out 1,000 business cards, now you might be able to get 10, maybe 15, maybe 20 of these leads that come back to you. It doesn't cost you any money. You don't
Yeah.
have to be like some of these guys that you can get that basic little cards and just give them away. And what'll end up happening is when you do those types of things, people will start contacting you. They will reach out to you because people do want to be Marines. It is a fact. And one of the things he said in that book is there's no shortage of money, only a shortage of effort. And I translated that to us. There's no shortage of people. There's
Yeah.
only a shortage of effort. They're out
Yeah.
here.
They
They are
are. Yeah.
freaking out here. It's a fact. But you have to maximize your time. You got to maximize your engaged statements. You got to be
Yeah.
effective. And when
So,
you do have somebody in the seat, you got to make it worth their time.
amen. So that's something, because we started this off talking about mental health, and then we kind of went on to talking about TCs. But so one of the things that you said was being effective and maximizing your time, right? So what's some advice and some tips that you can give somebody, like, how do we control our day? Right? How do we Somebody told me before the podcast, I was on the phone with somebody very inspirational and influential, and he said to me 2 things. He said, Bennett, control what you can control. And then he said, you can't solve world hunger. And I was like, wow, you're right. So my mentality, got to control what I can control. So what are some things that you would say that a Marine on recruiting duty on the bag would be able to do to make his day more effective, more time? Like, because
Yeah.
well, let's be honest, we allow a lot of time wasting practices into our day.
Yeah.
So what would you say are like how can we be as effective as possible,
So
and get that time back for our family, our mental health, the gym, and stuff like that?
So let's go ahead and start with this. Number one, you gotta wake up early, right? You gotta wake up early. I wake up at 4 o'clock every single day. I'm not bullshitting you. Like, every single day, maybe Saturdays and Sundays I wake up at 5. You know what I mean? 5:30. But I wake up early as crap every day. And what I do is I make a freaking I got my freaking mug sitting right there. It's 32 ounces. I fill that bad boy up with coffee. 7 scoops of Juan Valdez coffee. I fill that thing up with every freaking day. And I go ham, dude. I sit here in this seat that you're sitting me in right now, and I drink that entire thing. I use that time to play on my phone. I mess around, I post a video, do whatever. About 5:30 rolls around. I go upstairs. I put on my freaking shorts, my shoes, and my shirt, and I head off to the gym. I get my pump in for about 45 minutes to an hour, and then I come back about 6:15, 6:20. I kiss my kid on the forehead, kiss my wife goodbye, and I'm out the door. Boom, ready to rock and roll. So what I just did there by waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning is I made sure that I had an hour and a half to just sit down and just do whatever I wanted to do for myself. The second thing I did was I made sure I went and got myself a workout because it clears your mind. It gets your body right. It gets your mind right. When you like the way you feel, you like the way you look, you're rocking and rolling. You can't be stopped. And so that's number one. And then number two is understanding that this is a bottom line business. It takes an extreme amount of maturity to think about this job in that sense because it. I'll tell you, like, bottom line business meaning it's about the contracts, it's about the NWAs, about the interviews, but it's really about the contracts. And so, what you have to do is you have to say, okay, what do I have to do to get this contract? How many people do I have to contact to get this contract? Then you do that. And so if you're an immature guy and you're like, oh well, it'll come around or I'll wait for the OT and I'll get lucky, well then you're doing it wrong. What I mean is, as a bottom line business, you will put in maximum effort until you get what you need. And what you need is you need one person every single day that has been screened relatively well. One person that has been relatively well screened to sit in your chair every single day. It don't matter how many appointments you need to set to get that one guy. If you're super effective on the phone and you're super effective with your screening and you're lucky, then you only need to make one appointment a day to get one kid to sit in your seat. But that's never the case. You need 2 or 3 appointments to guarantee that one person shows up. And I break things down in the law of halves. Okay. If you have, for example, 5 recruiters in your office, everybody in that office sets 2 appointments a day. If they set 2 appointments a day, you can guarantee those. So 2 appointments a day of 5 recruiters, that's 10 appointments a day. That's 50 potential appointments per week that are scheduled. That doesn't mean you're going to show up. It's just scheduled. That's the power of two. You get two. And so now, let's say that half of them don't show up. 25 people sit down in a chair, okay, that week for various recruiters. Half of them are too stupid to pass the enlistment screening test, no matter how much value you give them for the test. Okay, fine. So that gives you 12 and a half, maybe 13 people, right? One guy came in, he's got no arms, so 12 and a half, right? 12 and a half people that take that test and pass it. It's potentially 12 interviews a week. If you take those 12 interviews a week, let's go ahead and say that half of those kids tell you, no, I don't want to be a Marine, or my mom said no, or I got to go to college instead. That still gives you 6 viable players that told you, I want to do this, I'm ready to rock and roll, that are going down range.
Yeah.
If you multiply 6 by 4 weeks, that gives you what? 20 to 6, 12, 18, 24 individuals that are potential players. Now you got alphas, you got bravos, and this is where the station commander steps into play. You write everything on your board, and you're like, okay, these are all of our potential players in the interview log. This guy said yes. Everyone on this board said yes, but he's an alpha, he's an alpha, he's a buck. He's an alpha, he's an alpha, he's a buck. And you pick and choose who you're going to use. You make sure you got your guys on their APRs, everything's looking good, and now you're ready to strategize. And so, earlier you talked about in briefs and out briefs, in mid and outs. And so now that everyone's thinking about this bottom line business, everyone's thinking about, I need to have one person sitting in that seat every day, and everyone's realizing that 2 packs and 2 appointments a day is going to guarantee you have the players. When everyone's in that mindset, now what you have to do is you have to strategize. Just like if you were on a football team, just like if you were in the I don't know, wherever, you come up with a battle plan. And so what you do as an office, right? You got your individual in briefs, and you do your individuals, but like what you really need to do is at some point that morning, you need to sit down as a group. I bought this big whiteboard in my old office, big whiteboard, and we would write down all of our players on this board. And it was like, okay, we're rolling in. Maybe it was like the 28th, and I'm like, okay, we have two waves here, gents, maybe three, but we're starting with just these two waves. Phase line one, phase line two. These are our two waves. What we need to do is identify days before those phase lines, before that Thursday, that we're going to be sending these kids down. So usually it would be the SDP Monday, that first Monday of the month, or maybe like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. That's wave one. Then we have wave two. That's next week. So every player that we accumulated throughout having this mindset, every player we accumulated, we write their name on the board. They tell me they got the docs, the kids coming to PT, everything's solid, everything's good to go. All right, cool. Kids' names on the board. Now we know, okay, here's our list of players for wave one. What do they need? This kid needs a 369. This kid needs his package. This kid needs a projection. Okay, when are projections due to me? Projections due Monday. Stats aren't okay. Cool. By Monday, I need every single one of these projections. Boom. We got the projections. Who's doing a 369 run? You are? Okay, bam. Everyone make sure he gets his 369 before, COB tomorrow. So now everyone gives him the 369s. He goes out and does that. Everybody knows when the projections are due. Everyone knows, oh, I need sets, I need help with PC, I need this and that. But we're all striving toward this goal. We have the finish line established.
Yeah.
Now that finish line is established, we can work toward that. And everything leans up to that. Now we put those kids on for wave one. We're going to see how it lands. As long as our processing is effective, everything is smooth. Let's see where we land. Everything that we're gaining in terms of our appointments and interviews during that time, we now are starting to stack for wave two.
Yeah.
And we have that finish line established.
Yeah.
As an office.
But
as a team.
and I love, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I love what you're saying here, because like when we talk about mental health, when we talk about mental toughness and all those things on this duty, if we are not in unison as a team, and if we're not walking in the office and we're not doing in briefs and we're not doing out briefs and we're not all on board with like, hey bro, like what do you got? What are you bringing to the table? Like, hey, what's going on with this kid? Hey, how can I help you? Oh crap, you booked 2 appointments today and something happened with your family. Hey, how can I help you? Like, and that's the biggest thing, is that like if we're not all on one wavelength and we're not all sitting down with each other and we're not all talking about, hey, what's going to happen next? What do you need me to do? Da, 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 da. And let's be real here. If you're as a station commander and you're not involved in your Marines' everyday lives, and you don't, not saying micromanage, but if you're not involved and you're not looking at their numbers, like if Marines are just sending you daily numbers and you're not answering them, then there's no purpose to get the daily numbers. Like if you're not redirecting, if you're not, these are all things that aid in the mental health process. Because if I'm a Marine and I'm out there all day long and I'm trying to make phone calls, I'm trying to do this, and no one's like, hey man, well, why haven't you tried this? Or hey man, what are you doing right now? Let me come out with you. Like all of these things are going to aid to having a team that is surrounded by one another, who knows like, hey, so-and-so's got my back. And now you're all in unison on going into those waves, and you're riding those waves, and all right, cool, this wave is coming and this is what we've got going, and we're going to go towards this wave together.
So to finish my point, not to cut you off, but now that we have this strategy, two things are happening. Number one, we like being at work a little bit more because we're working together, right? And so that's helping our mental, like that's helping us. Like my guys, not all of them, but a lot of my guys, they liked being at work when they were there. You know what I mean? And it's like, of course we want to spend time with our families and we'd have other shit we want to do. But like, they liked being with the team as well. And so like, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is when you establish this shit, when you are focused on this, when you are developing it and it starts getting smooth, and now these are constants that we're setting. These are our constants. And then we handle the variables as we go. With me taking point, like now when you start to win. And when you start to win, now you can find those gaps in time to chill. And I'm going to keep it straight with everybody here. Open up the volume 1. Read it from top to bottom. Let me let you in on a little industry secret here, friends. Okay? There's not enough time in the freaking day to do everything that's in that freaking book. It's impossible. You are going to have a long freaking day pretty much every day, but it only needs to be 5 days, maybe really 4 days a week. And what that does for you is it helps you understand the environment that you're in. And if you choose not to be an 8412, which most people don't, it's a short period of time, But now, because you're winning, your days are still going to be long, but they don't have to be quite as long. You're not going to be working weekends.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is, because you're winning, when you go home at the end of the day, who you are, your spirit is light.
Yeah.
Your life is light. You're not
And that's
stressed. You're not taking it out on your
yeah.
wife and kids, You're
So like,
present.
and it's something like I think a lot of people like when they hear you say that, I think a lot of people like myself, it's like, okay, well, what does it take to get to that, right? What does it take to really get to like? Because let's be honest here, and this is just my take on it. Hate me if you want to. What happens? What good prospecting comes of being at work on a Saturday? What prospecting, what good of prospecting comes from Friday afternoon after 5 o'clock? Not much. So like you're saying, realistically, if we can figure out how to work Monday through Thursday really well, you should be able to take Friday, half a prospecting day, half a training day, and then Saturday, if you got to come in for appointments or paperwork or whatever it is, then you have to. But realistically, like Marines shouldn't be working 6 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Like, and if you are, then that just means that that office is not being effectively ran. Those recruiters are
Right.
not working effectively daily. That you're not, as a station commander, you're not working effectively daily, and there's something in that office that is not being ran correctly.
Yep.
Because for you to be at work from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1800, there's something going on in that
I completely
office or
agree.
offices that you're not effectively working, and something has to be done. Because if you're not effectively working in the office daily, then like you said, no one's coming to the work ready and excited to come in on Monday at 09 or 08. No one is ecstatic to be there on these times. And then on top of that, their families, you got people who've got 3 kids, you've got people who've got 2 kids who aren't there to see their kids in the morning, and they're not there to see their kids at night when they go to bed. So again, if you're working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 12, 13-hour days, then there's clearly a chink in the chain, and sharp iron sharpening iron isn't happening, and effectiveness isn't there.
Yeah. Well, and I completely agree with you. You said nothing that's incorrect, and it comes down to effectiveness. And here's the thing, right? What I mean by that. Well, let's think about it. Like there are going to be days where you need to work on a
Oh
Saturday.
no, yeah.
It's a
No,
fact.
no, no. I'm not
But
I'm not negating that.
but here's my point, though.
Yeah.
Right? Here's my point. What are we doing on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Here's what should be happening on a Saturday. Saturday, you should be conducting appointments that you set on Friday, not
Mhm.
making phone calls for Monday, right? And then what you should be doing, right? Again, bottom line business, and it like I talked about, it takes an immense amount of maturity. But as a recruiter on the bag, you need to have the ability to have phone calls being made on Sunday. And this sounds crazy. Hold on for a second.
Mhm.
But hear me out. When you are a recruiter, if you can make 50 phone calls or 40 or 30 phone calls that take you an hour and a half on a Sunday at your home office with your own coffee and your pajamas, and you freaking set 2 appointments for Monday, well, number one, the parents are home. They got time to talk usually. The kids are home. They got time to talk usually. You could probably get a better appointment out of them for Monday. And if you set an appointment on Sunday for Monday, it's going to be more effective. And you
Exactly.
can do that from the
Can I
comfort of your home.
can I cut you off though?
Please.
Here's the thing. This is where you have to be able to, as a recruiter, as well, sorry, as a station commander, if you treat your Marines the right way, then they're gonna want to work on a Saturday. I mean, on a Sunday. They'll go out of their way to say, you know what, man, I'll send freaking 50 phone calls downrange from home because I know that you know what, the office needs it. I need it for my numbers. But I'll tell you one thing. If you are having your Marines in the office from Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1800, then guess what they're not going to do on a Sunday?
Yeah.
They are not going to take the one day that they have that's dedicated to their family because they haven't been there for 6 days and do that. But
We're
here's the
looking at it
problem.
from two different perspectives, right? Like you're looking at it from like the recruiter's doing it for the station commander, and I'm looking at it from like the recruiter doing it for themselves.
Well, no, no,
And
no,
you're
no, no, no. So I'm agreeing with you. I completely agree
yeah,
with you, right? I agree. Like tomorrow, I'm going to. I already told my station commander tomorrow. I'm going to take my son to the movies, and then after the movie, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to make anywhere from 50 to 100 phone calls tomorrow. I'm going to call my senior list and stuff like that, right? I'm choosing to do that, right? What I'm saying is this: there are recruiters out there who will get one, whether it's butthurt, whether it's belligerent, or whatever it is, that because of how long they are at work during the week, that
yeah,
they're just going to say, even though it's for my best interest at heart, I'm not going to work on a Sunday because of all of the day, all of the hours I was at work. So
yeah,
if we just took that thought and said, hey, you know what? Hey, Marine, go home, go home and take care of your family. I got you. And if we did that, more Marines would work when they weren't told to work.
right,
More Marines would work harder because they saw that you took care of them. Like
yeah,
if you as a station commander are like, hey man, you know what, man, I noticed, and this goes back to the mental health thing. If there's a lot of things that go on outside of the office that we don't know about. And you can tell when a Marine walks in the office and their demeanor changes. Normally, when he comes in on a Monday, he's hyped. But this Monday, he came in, he was like really not acting right, like very different. As a station commander, if you know your Marines, you should be able to be like, hey, you know what, man? Take it, go home, man. Go home on me, on the arm, and go deal with your family, bro. I don't know if anything happened, bro, but you kind of walked in here a little different. You know what,
yeah,
man? Go have breakfast with your family.
yeah,
And now, mind you, this isn't for any other reason but because of the mental health of the Marine. But guess what that's going to do to that Marine? That Marine is simply going to be like, yo, I remember that time that Staff Sergeant so and so he took care of me. You know what? I'm not gonna let this office not make mission.
yeah,
I'm not gonna fail my team. Because at the end of the day, you as a leader, as a mentor, as a Marine, were like, yo, I got you. And then immediately he was like, okay, it's not about me no more. It's not about my two. It's about the office. And when you start taking care of your Marines' mental health and you start saying, hey, man, you know what? Go take your leave. Because here's another thing, too, that happens, right? Talking about mental health. When you go on leave as a recruiter, ARI, whoever you are, what are you doing on leave? You're thinking about the office. You're thinking about, bro, I'm going to come back. I'm going to be behind. I don't have anything. Okay, well, why not when that Marine goes out on leave? You still set appointments for him and you hold the interviews for him. So that this way, when he comes back,
you
he
got
didn't
something.
have 5 days gone.
Yeah,
And now that Marine can enjoy his time off. And then think about how amazing it would feel if you called your Marine while he was on leave and said, hey, man, just so you know, I sat down with two kids for you today. One of them's coming back on the day you get back. I'm going to introduce you to him and the family. Now that Marine's like, yo, what? You did that for me? And now he's able to enjoy his family. He's able to take care of his family. His kids are able to focus on him instead of him being like, oh, bro, I'm gonna have to, and then that's why people don't even want to take leave. That's why Marines don't want to take leave on the duty because
yeah,
they know that as soon as they get back off leave or the night before they get back off leave, they're gonna get a phone call. Hey, what do you have for tomorrow? What do you mean? It was Sunday. I was trying to enjoy my last day of leave. Oh yeah, but you know you got to come back with an appointment for tomorrow. So
yeah. I
like
mean,
now,
some people, the station commanders are they can be a little bit unrealistic, and I think that everyone's under a good amount of pressure. But I will say this, like, um, when you start to like, I'm like the symptom is the mental health,
yeah,
right? Like that is the symptom. The problem is what we're not doing as individuals to get what it is that we need. I never worked for my station commander. It wasn't like I'm getting this for
amen.
you. I'm
Yeah,
doing this for
for
me.
me.
Like
Yeah,
I'm getting my shit. And so like when I talk about like going to Sunday, like I like tomorrow, man, don't your mindset change it for me real quick. Okay. You're not going to make a 50 or 100 phone calls. You're going to set an appointment or two. What,
Yeah.
and it might take you 4 phone calls, brother. You
Yeah.
pick the right list at the right time with the right engaged statement. It might take you 4 phone calls. You're like, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. That's happened to me many times where it
Yeah.
took me
Yeah.
3 or 4 phone calls to get 2 appointments. And
Yeah.
so you got to do things for you to become effective and efficient for yourself. And then when you are the one that's rolling bones, 2, 3, 4 contracts a month, you don't have to freaking ask for shit. Okay, you work as a team. The boss comes up to you, hey, like, you got anything else? You know what? I'll tell you what. I got a couple of NWAs we could pick up. This guy's a little bit messed up here. This guy needs this, that, and the third. But yeah, I can throw another one your way. I got you. Don't worry about that, Gunny. Like I can
Yeah.
take care of it. You know, and now Gunny needs you, and you need Gunny, right? It's a team effort thing. So
Yeah.
like you got to start with the problem, with the issue,
Yeah.
and then we work on the solutions. You know,
Yeah.
and so
But like let me say something though. And this will be like the last topic because it's already been an hour.
we're
But like
blowing through
here's
these things.
but but here's the thing, man. And I hear that a lot. And I agree 100%, right? When you get to the ability, you have all these things built up and you got these NWAs, right? But let's be real here. That takes a while. That takes a while to become that guy, especially for most people. Most people don't become that guy unless you're a silver tongue. Most people don't become that guy until 9 months in, a
Yeah,
year in, a year and a half in, right? So then you have this entire year where you're told by many people, right? Let's just be real. Hey man, yeah, bro, you can't go home until you got two for tomorrow. Hey man, you can't, you know what? I can't let you do that until you have your 2 contracts. And then let's think about what that does to someone's mental health for 9 months or to a year before they become that guy. And maybe they could have become that guy a lot sooner if they were told, hey, you know what, man? And again, this goes back to in briefs and mid briefs, right? If we hold the line and we tell a Marine, hey, man, I need you to do everything you can between now and 5 p.m. I need you to give me all you've got for the whole day. And now that Marine comes back to the office at 5 o'clock through his in imminent amount, and say he has 100 TCs, he's got 2 or 3 AC contacts, but he doesn't have an appointment for tomorrow. Sometimes the answer, it could be okay to be like, hey, you know what, dog? I know you don't have 2 appointments for tomorrow, but I know that you freaking busted your ass today.
100%,
Head home.
100%,
Because here's the problem.
absolutely.
Here's the problem. If we don't ever do that, then we are programming. And I was having this conversation with somebody, um, and they told me literally this is what we're teaching away from is we are programming Marines out of par to walk into the office and see, hey, even if I do all I can all day, I'm gonna be here from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And even when I write a contract, I'm gonna be here. So if we do not hold the line and say, hey, dude, you don't have until 9 p.m. tonight to meet your objectives. You need to meet your objectives by this time. And the reason why I'm doing that is so you can go home to your wife and your son and your family
Absolutely.
as soon as possible. And why
Yes,
am I
man.
doing that? It's because I care about your mental health and it's because I care about you. It's
Yep.
not be and listen, I get it. I get it. People are gonna hate me for saying this. Maybe you even might hate me for saying it too. Mission is paramount. I get that. But guess what? Mental health and the people's families, that's the most important thing. Because when we start caring only about mission, people are losing families and all that stuff. And those wives at home, they don't care if their husband wrote 2 contracts. The kid doesn't care if the dad wrote 2 contracts.
That's right.
The kid just cares like, yo, I haven't seen my dad in 6 days,
Yeah,
bro.
daddy, come home.
Like,
Yeah.
bro, like I just like today, my son looked at me today and was like, I have the best dad in the world because I bought him a bounce house and I was jumping in the bounce house with him. I was like, bro, that's all I had to do. But
Yeah.
but my point of the matter is that like sometimes, just sometimes at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, like you know how important you're a father, like you know how important, and this is what people forget, man. Do you know how important it is to somebody to be home with their family at dinner time? Like, I'll be real. Before I came back on the duty, I spent 2.5 years at the dinner table every single night with my wife and kids Monday through Saturday, Monday through
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And that became, to my 5-year-old son, that became a norm. At 6:30, he's going over to the freaking to get the silverware. He's sitting the table, and now that doesn't happen no more. So my thing, and this is what I'm saying to everybody out there, is sometimes, just sometimes, if you look at a Marine and they busted their ass all day and they don't got their 2 appointments for tomorrow, and you say, hey man, you know what? Go surprise your wife. Go surprise your wife with some flowers and buy some dinner, buy something for the kids, and just show up unannounced. Bro, watch what happens tomorrow when that Marine comes in the office on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. Immediately, because now what happens? Now we're not programming people. Now what happens is that Marine sees, wait a minute, if I bust my ass from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. and I meet and I exceed my objectives and I do everything I can to get the appointment, then you know what? I'm going to go home. And you know what? There are going to be, like you said, stats aren't done. There's going to be days where we got to work a little late, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But
But it
but at
can't.
that moment,
When
but at
people
that
tell me
moment,
when people tell me they work until midnight or 11 o'clock, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, look, let's wrap up, right? I think this entire episode can be wrapped up with two things. Number one, what you just said is absolute. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it. Go home, man. And if somebody like look, if you're keeping Marines at past 8 o'clock to do anything besides maybe dropping off a couple extra pulleys that were at PT or something, like anything outside of that, like it's got to stop. Right.
yeah.
And the second thing,
But hold on,
the
I gotta
second,
hold on. I gotta go
yeah,
back to what you just said, and that's what I'm gonna
okay.
name I'm gonna name it the episode. If you don't got it, you don't got it. That,
You
bro,
don't got it, you
that
don't got
bro, that's that is the most common sense thing. Like, yo, if your Marine doesn't have an appointment by 6:30 at night, bro, then you number one, you as the station commander, you failed. Let's be accountable here. You failed to correct that Marine's day. You failed. Now that Marine failed 100%, but you also failed because you're the subject matter expert in that office. You're the station commander. You did not correct that Marine's deficiency, and you did not aid him in finding those appointments. So both of you failed. Then at that moment, it comes a time where we say, hey, this is what we did. This is how we failed. How are we going to make sure we fix this so it doesn't happen again tomorrow?
right. Which brings
And
us to
then
our second thing, which is ownership, right? Which is
exactly,
like if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. But tomorrow you got to come in and say, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? What book can I pick up? What thing can I learn? What engaged statement can I write? Like, how do I take care of me?
exactly.
And so that way I have leverage in the game. I can
Yeah.
listen, Staff Sergeant Gunny, like I need to go home. I wrote two. I got two on the board. You need an extra one? I can give you one. And I got one for next month, whatever the case is. But it's time for me to leave. And now you have that ability to do that.
And here's the thing, like you just said, right? If we have these two things, right, and we say that and we understand that, things can only happen when we have constants, when we have constant in mid out briefs,
Yes,
and these conversations are constantly happening. This is how the way of life will work. But
100%.
if Marines are programmed to understand that the workday is Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., then this conversation that we're having will never be a reality because their mindset is they're programmed to understand that, hey, I'm gonna come to work, and even if I have my appointment set for tomorrow, I'm gonna still be here until 9 o'clock. Even
Yeah.
if I have this, and then what happens is you come in the office and you have no left and right lateral movements. You have no later than, and then you just spend the whole day because, well, I have the whole day. But unless you hold the line and you create constants to prepare us for the variables,
Yeah.
then we're not going to do that. And
Change your finish line. See,
oh,
your finish line
bro,
is not a
you
time.
keep giving
I'm
me
just
new
saying
titles, man.
your finish line is not the time of day. Your finish line is the objective, right? Your finish line is your daily goal. So it's like my goal was to get two appointments and to conduct the interview. That's my finish line. I
Yeah,
fucking did it. I'm leaving. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like I got my guys. Like change your finish line. It's not a time of day. It's a goal. It's an objective that you meet. Whatever it is that
mm,
you set. whatever it is that your boss told you to meet, whatever it is that you said you had to get, right? So anyway, like we could go on forever and
Yeah.
we probably will, but the next episode, we'll get back
Hey,
into it, man.
yeah. So hey, listen, everybody. So this is the prelude. Change your finish line. All right, to the we're gonna be doing a series called On the Bag. If you are listening to this, we've had a lot of people come in and out. If you're listening to this on the podcast on Spotify, or on iTunes, hey, please, 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 please reach out to myself or Stafford and Dutton on our Instagrams, Semper Sometimes LLC or Dutton Mindset, and reach out to us and let us know what topics you guys want us to talk about next. We already have a list that we've come up with on our own, but we're just going to be talking about the daily battle rhythm, talking about the mental health of the duty, talking about different ways and tactics, questions to explore, questions, ways to engage, just different types of things that we think or believe that are going to help you. But most importantly, I've done 95 recruiting duty episodes. This is the 95th recruiting duty episode. Um, these are all based off of my thoughts. If you have something that you're currently going through on the duty and you need guidance or help or anything, first of all, always go to your command. I'm not your command. But also reach out to us and say, hey, this is something that I'm going through. Can you do an episode towards this? And then we can do that. Shout out to Gunnery Sergeant Kane, because he's
That's my guy
always
right there.
I've
That's my
been
dude.
talking to him for like his whole tour. Thank you so much, Gunny. I appreciate that. I appreciate always showing the love. And also shout out to, I had two recent people. They made Facebook posts about how they got off the duty, and then they shouted out the podcast and said thank you for their driving time. So hey, I appreciate y'all too. Hey, that's the whole purpose of this podcast is literally just to help mostly myself. I'll be real, my own mental health, but also I know that the duty is insane. I know how hard it is. And so does Stats Sergeant Dutton. So I'm back on my second tour, and I'm coming back out here because I want to help as much as I can. So hey, thank you again, Stats Sergeant Dutton, for coming out. What any last words
100%.
you got for us?
Hey man, just keep your head up, keep grinding. Like I said in the beginning, don't judge your week by your day and don't judge your month by your week. You're
Mm,
gonna have ups and downs. It's okay. But keep
yep.
grinding, keep pushing, and work toward being more effective and efficient every single day. Love it. That's it.
Amen. And change your finish line.
Change your finish line.
Let's go.
All right.